up, guys? It's your girl, Matt Cox with Maccouture Crafting. Welcome to Quilt In With Soul Day 4. We have made it 4 days. We've got one more day to go. I'm debuting my all-time favorite quilt that I did in this series tomorrow, and all of the quilt kits will be available tomorrow on the Quilt In With Soul Facebook site. You guys need to make sure that you hurry up and get the ones that you want because they will not be available. Quilt In With Soul has a very, very serious fan base, and so these will go very, very quickly. And I didn't do a whole bunch of kits. I just did some. It's very, very small quantities. So if you want them, make sure you write down which ones you want. This one we're calling Purple Pride. I like it. It's purple. It's got a lot of purple going on here. If you look at it, you might say, do we really need to care which fabric we put in what place? And I will say it's going to matter right here when you start working with these borders, which ones you want to go where. So of course, this guy right here, this one is going to be my focus fabric. This blue here is going to be the fabric number 2, and then the purple will be fabric number 3, and that will put the purple on the outside. Now, if you switch them around, it's going to change some things, which is fine. You do what you want to do. But I'm just letting you know how I put these together. I like this one. If you are using directional prints, this is fine. It's not going to be an issue for your focus fabric. I don't love directional prints in the other ones, but this is all about this kit, and I like the way that it came together. It's still African, but it's got less in your face kind of vibe to it. And again, we're calling this one Purple Pride. So if you like this kit, make sure you jot it down and be sure to watch day 1 so that you can see what other fabrics they have. Because if you think the fronts of these quilts are cool, you guys have got to see what I did on the back. Each one has a panel that I have used on the back, and I'm really, really, really stoked about a few of them. Like, the backs are pretty, pretty awesome. So please keep watching to see how I put this together, and be sure to come back and watch this whole series and check me out tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
So this one is the purple one. Can't do a quilt series and not have a purple color. So that's going to be the number 1 fabric. I think the blue is going to be my number 2, and I think the purple is my number 3. Go by whichever one you want to have that 2-inch border around the side. You'll see. You can pick your colors however you really want to do it. You could make this your number 2 fabric if you wanted to. It's all up to you. And actually, that might be kind of interesting. I just hope people do all kinds of variations of this guy. Now you can see that it has some clear striping at the top there, and then it goes into a different motif at the bottom. And I used that to play with this quilt. You'll see that I specifically rotate these in different directions just so that the quilt has some interest, some added interest, because it's so obviously directional. So again, this one goes by pretty quickly. So it's not like a regular, like the majority of her patterns where there's a square and then another square that's a pieced square. This one is pieced all around your focal square. So it's a little bit different. I'm glad that I chose some that are different, that are not all that same style where you have a square and then you have a piece square, have a square, have a piece square. So I am going through and kind of marking on there how I want each one to turn. And this one has some borders again, so I'm cutting the borders from the last bit of this fabric. Can't give you guys the dimensions because it's not my pattern, but you can kind of see how it goes together here. Again, I think this goes together really interestingly. Loved working with this fabric. You'll notice that this fabric does have a front and a back, but they're very difficult to tell working with these wax prints. And when you are sewing together the borders and the binding, you're not going to do it on the cross. You're going to just meet them up together and sew them. That way you're not using up a bunch of the fabric, because this is economy binding and you're kind of doing an economy quilt. You know, you're using pretty much all 3 of your yards, so you don't have a whole bunch of excess. So just sew them together. Don't try to put them on the cross and sew on the diagonal. Just sew them together the way that you would any other seam to extend them. So I think this is for, I don't know if this is the binding. I forget what color the binding is on this guy, but I know that there are a couple of borders on this one, if my mind serves me correctly. So we're going to cut into our number, I think I use this as a number 2 fabric, and more strips, and more strips, and more strips. Please don't forget that this is a series. So go back and watch the ones if you haven't done so already, because it's a fun time with 3-yard quilts. We are, again, not affiliated with them in any way. We are just selling their kits, or our own kits with their patterns included. So you take your strips, you sew them together, and you're going to do the same thing for the shorter ones. They'll say things like do one whole one and then a partial one. And that's just what you do. Not difficult to do at all. I'm going to go on ahead and trim off the excess here and just get a nice fresh straight edge. Rotate this guy around and start cutting for the additional pieces that go around the focal point. And here I'm using a Creative Grids ruler because I don't think I have this size in Quilter Select. I want all the Quilter Select rulers. If there is one to be had, I want it. I stand by those rulers. I think they're excellent. So you're going to rotate that around, and we are going to cut into this one also. And they are slightly different dimensions. Some are longer than the others based on the pattern. As you can see here, this one is big. And we're just going to cut down. Let me know in the comment section if you guys have ever done an African quilt or used African fabrics. Again, I consider them to be a little bit bossy, but I like the fact that we just pulled some regular prints for this one and mixed them in. I think that it's a true talent to be able to jump across lines and make something that works. I know that people struggle with picking colors, and one of the ways that I say to get a quilt that matches without a whole bunch of work on your part would be to just stay within the line. You know, lines come out with stuff that all matches together. That will give you a cohesive quilt without you having to do the work. I like to do the work. I want to jump across all the color lines. I want to play with different textures. I want to force quilts to go together where they might not go together super easily, but that's just the fun for me in picking the fabrics and the patterns and things, which is why I was so grateful that Glenda, the owner of Quilt In With Soul, allowed me to do this because I was having the time of my life. So you take the shorter ones and you put them on the top and the bottom, and then the longer ones go on the side, and bam, you have a quilt block. Not difficult to sew, and again, you don't have to worry about matching seams up on this particular quilt. So just press them however, whichever direction you want. Now, when you sew them together, actually, you are going to want to make sure that they go the opposite directions, but you'll see. And I laid them out like that so that I could see which ones were going to go up, which ones were going to go sideways, because you can see clearly that these have like a stripe to them. And so I wanted them to kind of be every other. And there we go. All pieced together. Now I need to throw some borders on this bad boy. And yeah, they go up and sideways. It was fun laying out this guy. It took me a minute, actually. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I was like, do I have enough? Because I sewed them a specific direction when I was working with it. So you lay it out first, then you sew it. Because if you just go, you're going to have some that are the same direction and they won't rotate, because you cannot rotate these any way. They have to be rotated specifically. So lay it out. Don't just sew them if you want the stripes and the pattern to all kind of go together. Lay it out before you sew it together. And that's the finished one. Look at the back. Oh, this back is vibrant. I like the back of this quilt. I will show you guys how to do a quilt panel for the backing on the very last day. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye-bye.